And welcome to a not special or very special, depending on how you look at it, Monday morning edition of Beerfield Fantasy Football. I am your host at Hot BFF with 2Ps, the definite morning person of the group, joined by the absolute not morning person of the group at Thury BFF, Dan Thury, who is struggling with his microphone or headphones this morning.
It was it's early. I'm okay with it. I gotta close tonight, so I'm not gonna be home till late night, and then I want to be able to watch the Vikings stop the shit out of the Packers. So,
and for me, who has some running around and stuff to do today, it always made more sense to get it out of the way so that we can get on to the holiday time with our friends and family. Hey, you can follow the show if you want to wish us a happy holidays at Beerfield FF on Twitter, at Hot BFF with 2 Ps, at Thury BFF with 2 Fs. So some programming notes coming up. We are back to 1 a weeks. The way I'll plan this production meeting, we haven't had one of these in a while. What my thought is, Dan, is that we'll set to release on Mondays, but obviously given schedules and stuff can record early and things of that nature.
Yep. Okay. I assume for that, we'll still do live streams for everyone that wants to jump in, that has the time to jump in. And
Yep. So make sure you hit that notification when you subscribe to Beerfield Fantasy Football on YouTube, because the thing with these 1 a week streams is, while the audio podcast will absolutely drop on Mondays, we could be recording it on like a Wednesday night or a Thursday night, which is when the YouTube live stream will show up.
Yep.
So if you want the content earlier, YouTube. If you want to interact with us, YouTube. If you want to listen on your drive to and from work, audio podcast still coming on Mondays and everything. So be sure to subscribe there as well on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, iHeart. Some things I haven't heard of, coming to find out. I got people that are, you use this obscure app. Guess what? We're there too. So,
yep.
So yeah, just be aware of that. We're not doing Week 17 live streams because you're playing in Week 17, you're wrong. We're not doing Week 17 content because you're playing in Week 17, you're wrong. You can ask us Week 17 questions if you are playing in Week 17, and we will answer them, but we're not going to center content about that. So we got something a little different today. We're going to do, Monday after Week 17, which will be our next show, is Black Monday. It's when coaches get fired. So we're going to run through every coach this year that is either underachieved or just not performed at all, the team's under 500, and give a prediction on them, on whether we think that they're going to stay or that they're going to go. So not statistical, going to be dipping our toes in the water, testing the heat. How do we feel about it based on what we've followed all season?
I'm basically just humming along. Should I stay or should I go now?
Yeah.
Should I stay or should I go now?
Should I
if I stay, there will be trouble. But if I go, there will be double.
What's fueling Beerfield?
All right, so for the first time in the history of the show, I don't think either of us have anything involving alcohol. It's still a little early yet for me, not that it's ever too early for alcohol. I am off today, but just didn't really feel like bourbon in the coffee this morning, although I did consider it strongly based on what I'm drinking. I've got a French toast grind from Bones Coffee Company, so I do have some like craft coffees and stuff up in the cabinet that we decided we had a wild hair and want to try. So I felt like, with it being a morning episode, why not review one of those? So Bones Coffee Company, you can buy their stuff online. What I did is I just went through and got a little while ago, actually, just went through and got about 5 or 6 different flavors that intrigued me in these little 4-ounce bags. And I think you can build your own samplers, how I did it. But French toast is one of them that was in that sampler. Whole bean order, ground up, just drip brewed. So, I'll give a review on that. I will be reviewing coffee today, which is a first for me. And Dan?
I am drinking the Bud Light of coffee. Folgers, medium roast, I believe is what it is. I drink my coffee black with sugar, so
I'm just drinking. Yep. I forgot to mention that. I'm just
Yeah,
drinking mine black.
Yeah, it's all basic. So mine's gonna be really, really simple. But I thought about I have you know what? I'm gonna get a beer. Because fuck it.
Okay. I thought about a KBS too, because I have one of those put aside.
No, I got a beer that actually follows a really good story behind it. So I'm gonna grab that. You keep talking, and then we'll continue with the live stream shit show morning episode.
Okay. Well, I'm excited to see what this is. Dan is gonna grab a beer. Give you a little more on Bones, I guess. They have some other flavors that they have that I have up there. S'more time, bananas Foster. I believe they have a strawberry shortcake. All kinds of different flavors and merch and things. So go ahead. I've had, I think, 4 of the 6 that I ordered so far. So yeah, if you think about it, go ahead and grab those. Dan, I see you're back.
All right, I'm back.
All right, cool. I just rambled about Bones for a few more minutes. Okay, what beer did you get?
Okay, so I have Goose Island's Lost Palette.
Okay.
Lost Palette is a hazy IPA with mango and cinnamon. Now, the story behind this is that there's a long-standing employee that works for Goose Island. He had cancer, and during his chemotherapy process, he lost his palate. When he started to come out of it, he only gained back a few certain things. Basically, the things that he liked the taste that he liked when he started to regain some of his palate was mango and cinnamon. So with the head brewmaster, they crafted a beer, to remember that, in his memoriam or whatever. So we get a hazy IPA with mango and cinnamon. You're not gonna find a hazy IPA quite like this. So
no, definitely cinnamon is not a flavor that's used in
No.
IPAs that often, just because it. No, I don't know why. Actually, that's actually not a bad idea at all. But it counteracts some of the fruit flavors that you get out of it, and it's not. We're not talking like peaches or apples or things you would typically pair with cinnamon. You're talking like bright citrusy fruit that doesn't normally go with cinnamon. So
I will say this: I've had a few of these since it's released down here in Springfield. It's they do a very, very good job of the blend. I will get more into that though when we get to the review.
all right. One other thing, I am, if you're watching on YouTube, drinking out of a coffee mug that has my own face on it. So
Oh, that one.
there's that.
I love me some me.
All right, let's go ahead and get into the news.
News.
All right, gonna go ahead and get into the news, which I just said already. I think what I was looking for there is not a lot of news this morning, and that's because we are recording on Monday morning. A lot of it hasn't broken yet, hasn't come out. So anything that breaks over the course of the next week or so, outside of injuries, we'll get to you. So Ian Rappaport reports the Browns are not expected to deal Odell Beckham in the offseason. This jives with Odell saying that he didn't want to go anywhere, so we can finally lay that to rest, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean the problem is Freddie Kitchens and probably some of the actual coaching staff and and the building around it. You get a more respectable, likable, and probably a slightly more advanced coach in that locker room. You're gonna get better results and happier players.
Yeah, more on that later.
Yeah.
Darren Sproles announced that he will retire after this season. So Sproles has had a very good career. I think the stat was 30 receiving touchdowns, 20 rushing touchdowns, and a punt return and kick return touchdown for Sproles. Only player in history to do that. He's 5th in all-purpose yards. And really, the biggest impact Sproles had on the game is a lot of these pass-catching backs, like James White. You could make an argument for like a guy like Alvin Kamara, Todd Gurley. A lot of these guys that are seeing 100 targets or whatever. Outside of LaDainian Tomlinson, Sproles was really the other one to kind of break that mold and become your quintessential receiving back, and a guy that is going to get a ton of targets out of the backfield, and you're going to run him outside primarily. And might actually see more receiving work than rushing work as a running back. So he kind of broke that mold and paved the way for how a lot of teams structure their backfields now with a bigger back and more of a receiving back. Tariq Cohen's another guy that fits that mold. So, he was a guy that you had to get into your game plan because he was so talented, and that led to a lot of what we see in the NFL today.
Yeah, I mean, he's so underrated. He won't be. I don't think he'll be a Hall of Fame player, even though I think he should be. Punt return, he was dynamic, and kickoff is when he did those. He was dynamic, and he's one of the best running backs in space when he was younger. And you got to see during his years in New Orleans and San Diego, he was extremely dominant. You throw out, Thomas, then you get guys like Marshall Faulk and Curtis Martin. All their older running backs who were more dynamic because they were the focal point of their offense. Sproles was really the first back that always shared a backfield, and I'm sure there's more out there. We're not fucking old timers though.
For
But he was
our
the first one
generation.
that I really, like he was the first one that we really saw that could really dominate special teams out of the backfield. Outside the tackle, you put him in space. It's a great career. I'm sure a hell of a guy in the locker room and outside of the football field. So, cheers to him.
Yeah, but stuck around for a long time. Only game news we have for tonight. Alexander Mattison, this is a reminder from Sunday, is not playing, so start Mike Boone. And if you're screwed over with Mattison or cooking your lineups because you've been living under a rock and not paying attention, your only other real hope for productivity is that Jamal Williams is out on waivers. And he's probably not, so.
Yeah, I'm I'm playing against Mike Boone everywhere. In my only championship game, I'm up 90 points on Nick with Boone, Jones, and Adams left for my only championship. So
you need him to not do a lot.
I need the three of them to not decide to take over the game.
Yep.
At least in a way that, accumulates over 90 points.
Yep. The NFL Network reports the Bucs will bring back Jameis Winston for the 2020 season. Very mixed bag this year. He's going to finish with over 5,000 yards. He's got 4,908 currently. I think he throws for more than 92 in Week 17. A plus 5% touchdown rate, which is really, really good. The bad is a 4.7% interception rate, which that equates to a 31 touchdown, 28 pick season, and a career high in sacks is 46% or 46. So, obviously some work that needs to be done on the offensive line there. I know that they've dealt with some injuries as well, but they've got to get better on the offensive line. But I think it's fine for we'll have to see what the deal is because Jameis isn't an impending free agent. But I think if you're looking for a bridge quarterback, if the Bucs can do some things to not make him have to throw, like on defense, to where he doesn't have to throw the football almost 40 times a game and can protect him a little bit, and that interception rate number comes down to even about what his career was, I think that they're fine. So I think they're right to give him a bridge deal and maybe pick somebody up that they can develop, or maybe need to wait on to heal. I mean, they've kind of played themselves out of a top draft choice by winning more often than losing here lately. But
yeah, I mean, they need a running back. You need someone that you can trust in all three downs. You need an offensive line, and of course, you need to shore up the defense. But I think we know who Winston is. I think Bruce Arians knows who Winston is. You have to live and die by his decision making. I don't know if him throwing even less would change that. He's in a more extreme Eli Manning, and we've seen Winston when he can get hot in a 3 or 4 game streak. The Bucs ever make the playoffs? It wouldn't shock me if the Bucs make the playoffs one year with Winston as their QB if he goes off and wins in the Super Bowl. Because he can dominate for 3 or 4 games and post a Flacco-like postseason, or an Eli Manning type of postseason, win him a championship, and then be back to throwing 30 touchdowns and 20 interceptions the following year.
Yeah, and for Jameis, I mean, his previous career high was a 3.7. He's got 2 seasons at 2 above. I mean, every season has been above 2.5 for the interception rate, but he is throwing the ball 602 times this year. That's up with Drew Brees in his prime. I mean, and the argument is you bring that down, you bring the interception numbers down, and you look for some positive regression in the interception rate area, back to even the high 2s or low 3s. And all of a sudden you've got a 31 touchdown and maybe 18 interception type of season. which
Yeah,
is a
like,
lot
if he
easier to
could get him-
stomach.
Yeah, like if he can get himself to where he was, even this is weird to say, his rookie season where it was only 2.8 interception
Mhm.
percentage. I mean, granted, you're gonna like with how talented he is, they'll probably win more games because of that. Less turnovers.
They'll win more
generally.
games. I mean, even with the turnovers, they'll win more games if they can get any semblance of defense.
Yeah. Well, that and a running game that they can trust. You know, when you bounce
Exactly.
back and forth between the the quintessential Jag running back and Peyton Barber and a low confidence but getting better in Ronald Jones, it's tough because you can game plan to just try to stop Winston, let the running game do whatever the fuck it wants to do.
Right. Yep, I agree with that. So some things the Bucks need to fix, but I think that we're both in agreement that if with where they ended up in the draft this year, and the areas on their team that they need to fix, I think that signing Winston to a bridge deal and
Yes.
trying to develop a quarterback is the right move there.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if they draft one this year and just say, hey, you
Yeah.
better work out, otherwise you're getting benched.
Yep. The Cleveland Plain Dealer reports Jarvis Landry could require offseason hip surgery, so this goes along with Odell Sports hernia surgery as well. He has been missing practices because of a hip injury, but we'll see. It's expected that if he does require hip surgery, that he won't miss even part of training camp. So,
yeah,
which he gets. They're not a playoff team, so he'll get the extra month. All right, that's all we got there. Let's go ahead and get into some Black Monday predictions.
Black Monday.
All right, so as I mentioned, what we're doing through here, I broke it down by division, but what we're doing through here is basically we're going to go through each coach, or not each coach. We're going to go through each team that has a losing record or underperformed expectations, which I think I only put teams with a losing record on here anyway, and give a prediction on what we think is going to happen with that coach come next Monday, come Black Monday. So, there may be some surprises with guys we don't have on this list, and there may be some things we get right or wrong, like always. We'll do a beer review after the AFC before we get into the NFC. Let's go ahead and start with the AFC East and Adam Gase. New York Jets are 6-9. It's a team that a lot of people thought was going to kind of take a step on offense. Gase seemed like a weird hire, and then you had the mono thing with Sam Darnold. You had Chris Herndon, who's a big part of it, miss a portion of the season. They're still kind of missing a number one wide receiver, even though I think Darnold has progressed at least a bit this year. What are your thoughts on Gase? I think that they've already come out and said that they're going to keep him. I think that while he's not a sexy name or anything, that the team performed well enough given the circumstances to keep him. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I agree. I think 6-10 or 7-9 is a good. I mean, it's not what the Jets fans obviously hope for. Obviously, every fan base wants a playoff, at least a playoff berth or a winning record. But you got the most out of this. You had Darnold, dealing with the mono situations. You had a plethora of injuries. And then with the Bills, with their epic rise in the AFC East into where they're at right now, it was always going to be, an uphill climb. We love fantasy football. Our listeners obviously love fantasy football within the community, on Twitter and, Instagram and Facebook. Everyone loves fantasy football. Gase just isn't a good name for fantasy football because of what we saw with Le'Veon Bell, his previous tenure with the Dolphins and Kenyon Drake and Ryan Tannehill, what they've been able to accomplish since leaving him. And then even Jarvis Landry, I think we tend to hate on him more so because he hasn't been great for fantasy. But you get you get at least 6 wins out of this roster. I don't think, I'm not calling that a win, but I don't think you're gonna, get rid of this coach after just one season.
No, you don't want to done him after that, and given the circumstances. And I will say this about Darnold: the reason you bring Gase in is to help a young quarterback. And Darnold's going to end up playing 13 games this season, just like he did last season. This is obviously pending week 17. But as of right now, he's 6-6 as a starter. He's improved his completion percentage by a full 4 percentage points, improved his touchdown rate, improved his interception rate, improved his yards per attempt. So yards per game, QB rate, everything is pretty much either even or better with Darnold. He did not regress in any area. So I think that is Adam Gase doing what he was brought in to do, and they need to put some personnel out there for him. But I don't think Adam Gase is gone.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much he's helped them in terms of like if you look at the overall metrics or things like that. But I think on paper and just watching him, I mean, granted, he's going to get better from year 1 to year 2. At least he should. Not looking at you, Baker. I expect his growth. I think he'll be even better next year, and I think the Jets will again either disappoint strongly or surprise some people. And they were one of my surprise dark horse playoff picks coming into the season. So I have a little more hopes for them next year.
I do too.
If Gase, if the team struggles next year, then I'm sure Gase's name will be again brought up in on the hot seat like usual. So we'll see then.
I think so too, but I do think he gets another year. All right. Dolphins, Brian Flores. Team is 4-11. Another first-year head coach. He's another one that I don't think goes one and done. Just look, the roster is so depleted. They knew that what they were bringing in, that they were bringing it in for a rebuild. And typically in this situation, you're going to see a coach get more than one season. They're playing with a journeyman quarterback. They're playing with, Devontae Parker actually broke out under him, but everything else on the wide receiver core, Preston Williams had a good start, but they got some things coming along there, but it's not ready to go. The running game's a mess. The offensive line's a mess. The defense is a mess. They traded Fitzpatrick. This is a team that's going to have to draft and rebuild well in Miami, and I just don't think you can, a first-year head coach that you brought in to be your guy, when you put nothing around him. You got to let him get a couple years into that rebuild and see if the results are there and the team's improving.
I mean, he got 4 wins out of this roster. They were far more competitive in more games than not. And that was when they finally just went to Ryan Fitzpatrick instead of what the Josh Rosen show. So I think he should be fine. I think this is almost a win if you're looking at what the head coach has been able to get out of his players. This is almost a win for him. This roster should have only won a game or two at most.
Yep. So Flores not going anywhere. I think everything in the AFC East, as far as coaches go, stays the same because you're not firing McDermott with the Bills and obviously Belichick. So
yeah.
All right, to the AFC North. Ravens and Steelers are out of this one. Obviously, Ravens have been fantastic, and I think Mike Tomlin has done a very, very good job with everything that's gone on in Pittsburgh. So even though they're a team that is, I think, under 500 right now, I don't think you can fault Mike Tomlin for that and what he's been able to do with the roster he has, especially with the Ben injury. So looking at Cleveland, Freddie Kitchens, I think, is gone. He is massively underperformed with a team that had incredibly high expectations, not just on offense, but the defense has regressed. The offense didn't live up to what they should have been able to live up with, given everything that they have at the skill positions. Baker regressed. They had playoff aspirations, and he went 6-9. I do not think Freddie Kitchens is the answer here. They need to either get somebody experienced or innovative in here, and Freddie Kitchens is really neither of those things. So I think he's gone.
Easily. I think he's one of the, like, if you're placing bets on who gets fired, he'll be less. He'll be like 3-2 or 9-5 odds or something crazy like that, where everyone and their grandma fully expects him to get canned. This roster is way too talented to be wasted on such a mediocre, head coach. So we'll see what they bring in. The fact that they got 6 wins, I think, is more of a testament to how strong the roster is and how good of a coach Kitchen is. So
the fact that they only got 6 wins is a testament to how not good of a coach Kitchens is when you look at that roster up and down. All right, Zach Taylor in Cincinnati. They went 1-14. He's a Sean McVay disciple, and if it were not a team other than the Bengals, this could be a case for maybe going one and done. But it's the Bengals, and we saw with Marvin Lewis that they just don't fire coaches. So I think he gets a chance. They played around with Ryan Finley for a bit. I don't think Andy Dalton's back. I don't think AJ Green's back. They're gonna have to blow this thing up and just rebuild it. And I think Taylor's gonna be the one that's there for that rebuild. And again, that's because it's Cincinnati. So I'd be shocked if anything happens there, especially given how loyal that they were to Marvin Lewis. Zach Taylor is a first-year head coach. He was learning. You had a lot of turmoil roster-wise around this team, not just their high-round offensive line picks over the last couple of years getting hurt, which really hurt Joe Mixon, but the lack that what they didn't get out of Ryan Finley, AJ Green being down all season, just a lot of things did not pan out here.
Yeah, I mean, Zach Taylor gets that, gets that pass. The offensive team itself looked absolutely abysmal first half of the year. Dalton, I think, got hurt, then benched. And then they come back and they've been competitive. Before they got blown out by New England, but they were far more competitive, against them than people expected. Mm-hmm. They had a hell of a comeback against the Dolphins on Sunday. Now this is an indictment to the fact that he should have the job no matter what. But I think it speaks to where now I think the players are buying into what he's doing. I actually think AJ Green comes back. I think they beg him to stay, to give him a veteran receiver to pair up with Joe Burrow when they draft him this year. Mm. And the fact that this receiving core is actually pretty strong if they can keep Green. This is a really underrated offense if you really think about it. You get all their healthy offensive linemen back. Hopefully, you get a high draft pick, which is going to be their rookie quarterback. Pair him up with Mixon, Green, Boyd, Tyler Eifert if he's healthy, Stanley Morgan Jr., John Ross, who's had, a better season than I guess people expected.
Aside from
an O-line who should be healthy. He still sucks, but this is not the worst situation to come into. This is not like the Dolphins roster.
No.
There's only one or two pieces at max, at least since he can put together some weapons around them and probably win more games than people expect them next year.
And you make a good point. What they really need on offense is just the line to get healthy, because Joe Mixon and Gio Bernard are both fine at running back. And, Dalton proved that he can still be the journeyman. You can draft a guy like Burrow if you want to, and not have to bring Dalton back, or you can choose to bring Dalton back on a cheaper deal and sit him or let him mentor Joe Burrow, depending on where he's at. There are things that you can do there, but I think if they do end up having to roll with Andy Dalton for another year or two, you can still put AJ Green out there with Tyler Boyd. We saw it in tape flash. You mentioned Stanley Morgan, who's a guy that we really liked coming in last season that started out on the practice squad and then has played some, and a little help needed at tight end, definitely some help needed on defense, but I think that Zach Taylor's here.
Yeah, I think he'll get at least through next year.
Him and Flores are in the same boat, really.
Yeah, they got one win, I guess. Maybe even one win is overachieving with this, with how badly it's gone. But yeah, I think Zach Taylor gets another year easily.
Okay, on to the AFC South. Tennessee, we're gonna leave them off of this. They're performing well with Ryan Tannehill and Mike Vrabel there, and unfortunately, we have to leave the Texans off of this, even though I've got some words for Bill O'Brien. Just because
he might be your surprise fire.
Bill O'Brien could be. Let's talk about Bill O'Brien.
I know playoff berth and everything else. And you lose Watt like they do every year. I feel like, which sucks. But O'Brien is kind of like the new Marvin Lewis, where I think the roster propels his record enough to showcase that he could be a competent coach, but in reality, he's not.
Yeah. Let's talk Bill O'Brien, because I agree with you. He could be the surprise firing of the year. Look, Deshaun Watson has not looked good, and the offense hasn't looked good, and that's what Bill O'Brien's responsible for. The offense has been, there's a couple games where inconsistent is a good word for it. There's just a few games where they blow up, and then they just look terrible. He's managed to give DeAndre Hopkins, the second bad year of his career? I think both of them were under his watch. You haven't had a ton of key injuries. I guess you could consider Will Fuller one, and maybe Lamar Miller, but I think Carlos Hyde's at least performed at a Miller level, and you brought in Kenny Stills to kind of replace that whole, or help with that whole Will Fuller situation, and that really didn't get utilized or do a whole heck of a lot. Defense hasn't been great, but they weren't great before, and that's not really what he's responsible for. That's more on Romeo Crennel. I mean, he's responsible for the whole team, but he's one of those head coaches that keeps the offense under his reins. So Bill O'Brien, I think I'm with you. He could be the surprise firing just because of how inconsistent and bad this offense has been at times, and the lack of an excuse there for that offense to be bad.
Yeah, I mean, he won't get fired, on Black Monday. It'll be after the season. It'll be, that may be early on in the season if they get bounced in the playoffs early. We got a comment from Dylan, though. Dylan, he needs 4 points from Cousins, and he'll be his league champion in his one and only league. In one league, he made a playoffs and now 3. He hopes our seasons went well. He hopes week 16 went well for us. It went well for me in my one championship. I made it in. I lost my only 2 third place games that actually gave me my money back, so that sucked. But I should get one championship at least.
Yep, I got bounced in semifinals most everywhere. So didn't hit week 16, just some underperformances and things. But overall, it went well. I had some dynasty teams that overachieved that I thought were going to be tank all the way, and it didn't. So I'm not disappointed with how the season went, especially as most of my leagues are dynasty, not redraft, and knowing where those rosters were before the season started and where it ended and how they did kind of outperform expectations. So
yeah. So cheers, you Dylan. I fully expect
with
Cousins to get you 4 points.
With Cousins,
he might get you those 4 points on the first drive. So
yep, congrats. Well, I'm not gonna say that because if I say that, he's gonna get hurt on the first drive. So I'm
not willing that. I'm not. I'm beyond that. No.
Yep.
If it happens, I'll cry.
Not jinxing that. Not jinxing that. But yes, you should get that 4 points out of Cousins. So, and thank you. All right. On to the rest of the AFC South. Now that we're done throwing Bill O'Brien under a bus, Frank Reich.
He's fine.
He's fine. He's not going anywhere. 7-8. I put this here because I thought a lot of people thought that Indy was going to be a playoff team. There are a couple of Vinatieri missed field goals away from being that. And look, you had your franchise quarterback retire right before the season started. And then T.Y. Hilton missed the majority of the season with a calf injury. Injuries to Ebron as well. Leonard missed a few weeks with a concussion. He's not going anywhere. He'll be okay.
Yeah, he is the safest coach on this list.
Yeah,
he's the safest.
For sure. Doug Marrone, not safe. They're saying they're not going to fire him. I think they fire him. Jacksonville needs to press reset. They got rid of Coughlin because of off-field things, but they need to press reset. They've got some pieces, but you need a philosophy change, especially given the Wild West that Jalen Ramsey created and the culture that Coughlin instilled. This is going to be one of those things where you need a culture change more than anything.
Well, it sounds like Coughlin was the entire issue. Like when you listen to the players and the reaction, posts of his firing, it kind of falls in line with with how some of these star players were with this team, especially Jalen Ramsey. It all kind of makes sense.
Rebelling against the
I wouldn't be surprised if Marrone. What's that?
Said rebelling against the authoritarian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Tom Coughlin,
the
sheriff. I wouldn't be surprised if he if he's given another year to see if you can get some sort of culture change there. But this is a winning, league. This is a league that fan base is expected, but when it comes to actual business wise and money wise, you gotta win games to put people in the seats.
Yep.
You can't rely on a 6-round quarterback to change your franchise because of his mustache. As much as we love
Gardner Minshew, but the league adjusted. They did.
So it's. I think I'm really 50-50 on him. I think it wouldn't surprise me either way if he gets let go, or if he if they give him at least into next season. If they start out slow, he's probably one of the first people to get fired.
I think Marrone or Freddie Kitchens are the two that I'm going to be sitting here pissed off about on Monday because they didn't get fired.
Freddie Kitchens will, yeah. I think once your week 17 game is over, once it runs down to 0-0, you tell him he's not allowed to be on the plane. I don't even know if they're playing at home or not. You tell him that he's fired there, and that he has to get his own transportation home.
Here's a bicycle. Here's a bicycle. Go home. I don't care if it's Cleveland. I don't care.
It's Juju's bike. Oh God!
Here's a bike. Full circle. Go. Yeah, and Marrone's the other one that I don't know. I think that the offense is stalled. I think there's been some questionable things, and I don't know how much of those were Coughlin or how much of them was Marone and how much of a say Marone had or anything like that. But the defense has been atrocious in both run and pass facets. The offense has shown flashes, but not necessarily been great. DJ Chark's had a nice season, but you go out and pay Nick Foles, and then he gets benched for 6th-round Gardner Minshew because he honestly is the better option. And there's some things that need to happen here, and I really think that just getting a new coach, getting a different culture in there, and letting them build that thing from the ground up is the way that needs to go.
Yep, I agree.
All right, in the AFC West, Vic Fangio in Denver, 6-9. I think he's safe.
Yeah, well, first year there, 6 wins. You can say, maybe that was the expectation for this year. This wasn't a playoff team. Defense still looks good. They were, some of their, their key players have been banged up throughout. And then I think the offense at times overachieved. And at times they just looked helpless. So I'll be, that's not his forte. That's the offensive coordinator's job. But I think he's fine for this year. I think they'll at least give him a couple years. I'm not sure how John Elway is with his loyalty to his head coaches.
Yeah. So I will say this. I think they have something in Drew Lock, and I've talked about that at length. Lock has had 2 pretty good games, 1 okay game, and 1 not so great game against the Chiefs when he was really pressing in the snow. But for a rookie quarterback, their first 4 starts, I think Drew Lock has been fine. Cortland Sutton had his broken out. We know the running game's fine. The defense has not taken a step back under Fangio at all. The Joe Flacco trade will never make sense to me.
No.
But that's more on Elway than it is on Fangio. So as far as Fangio goes, I think he's done what they brought him in to do. I think that this is a team that could maybe sneak in as a wild card next year, depending on, because I don't see a whole lot of holes, right? I don't see a whole lot of holes on the roster. So I think that it's just kind of that meshing phase, and that they will take the right step in the second year. So I don't think that Vic Fangio goes anywhere.
No, I think, I'm sure they need help offensive line. With Fangio will probably go to the Zimmer route and in terms of, drafting and getting that defense back up to where he wants it to be on his level, and let the offense, you bring in a guy on, on the offensive coordinator side to help shore up that offense. I see a lot of similarities with how that's going to be, at least in my opinion, how I think that's going to be with Denver. So it's not a John Elway doesn't fuck it up, and many people believe he's one of the more overrated GMs in the league, and I wouldn't disagree. So we'll see what happens, but I think in terms of Vic, he's fine for this upcoming season. Again, I think slow start, you may see some hot seat talk, but I think for now he's fine.
Yeah, and that was the issue this year, was a slow start. But I mean, under a first-year head coach and an offense that's having an identity crisis, you kind of expect that.
Yep.
All right, Anthony Lynn for the Chargers, 5-10, and I'm real conflicted on this because I feel like Phillip Rivers is the problem, not Anthony Lynn.
Yeah, but the head coach will get blamed.
But the head coach is going to take the fall for it because you can't fire a quarterback. So, I guess you could, but you're not going to, not with Rivers. So,
he went 9-7 his first year in 17. He went 12-4 last year. I think he'll be fine. I think they'll give this as a pass, as you just mentioned, because of the injuries again on defense. Phillip Rivers, massive regression, and just the overall not having Melvin Gordon for the first 6 games of the year.
Yeah, that did.
With how good Austin Eckler is a Melvin Gordon. He's probably
you're better with both of them than with just one of them.
Yeah, like
they may not have Melvin Gordon next year though.
They may not, but they'll have a full off season to rectify their whatever they need to do. I think the offense as a whole really underachieved. I don't know if that's Lynn's forte or not, but
the defense kind of underachieved a bit too.
Yeah, same thing. Especially with injuries again.
It's a team that just underachieved, and usually that falls on the head coach. When the entire team underachieves, because let's break it down on offense. You had Melvin Gordon's holdout, but Austin Eckler, as you mentioned, was formidable and put up some huge games. So where's the issue there? It's Rivers. Keenan Allen didn't really miss any time. Mike Williams was banged up here and there, but didn't really miss significant time. You had the injury to Hunter Henry, but that's kind of been status quo for the last. I mean, you didn't have Hunter Henry all of last season, and he went 12-4. So, there's offensive line problems, but on the defense, you've got a pass rush that's supposed to be really good, and was just okay. And you've got a secondary that had been good and was just okay. So they need help on the defensive side of the ball, but really when the whole team underachieves, that falls on the head coach, and that's why I think there's a chance Anthony Lynn is gone.
Oh, no. I'm not saying that he's 100% safe.
No.
I think
I can see it going your way, too.
Yeah, I think he'll get the goodwill fortune. They'll blame it on injuries. They'll blame it on the quarterback and the whole offense. I mean, when you lose your best offensive weapon in Gordon for the early part of the season, then we've seen how good the dynamic is between Gordon and Eckler when they're both on the field, at least when they're both active. It helps with everything because it forces Rivers not to, be in God mode. The fact that this team lost in every sort of way possible, this record could actually be fine and be better. They lost every 50-50. Every single 50-50 that I think they lost. I think that speaks to it. You see them put together complete games like you saw against Green Bay, but more so than not, you saw Rivers go cowboy and it lost to him.
And they also
maybe that's on Lynn too for not reeling him in and letting the whole and them not playing a full 60 minutes.
It also doesn't help when you're playing every game on the road.
That's true. That's bad. When they had the reduced silent count, when you have to do your own silent count at home
more than 1 week.
That's granted, San Diego, you don't have the best fans because there's generally a retirement spot for a lot of other people. And then you have LA, the Rams have been overshadowing the Chargers. And again, I think the Chargers just don't have a fan base. It's what it
They had a fan base.
Like.
They should have never left San Diego because they had a fan base there that was at least you've had the time to build one.
They should have at least gone to a city that is not competing with other, not
teams.
Just with one other team in your own sport, but with like the Lakers, the Dodgers, and shit like that. Like San Diego wasn't probably the right spot for him because he had the same issues there too.
You had the issue in San Diego was more. I think they wanted a stadium deal and something else. So that's usually why teams move. I don't think it had anything to do with the fan base. I think it was more. I mean, sure, maybe a little bit, but stadium deal. It's the same reason the Rams moved too. Stadium deal.
Yeah,
and
they just sent the Chargers to St. Louis.
I'm for you.
Send them to a place that wants a football team and we'll have a loyal fan base probably behind it. At least, it will show more than what the Chargers have gotten in LA.
You could say moving them to Inglewood's gonna do it, but I don't think it is. I don't think that that's gonna solve their problems. I honestly think that I tend to agree with you in a sense that and agree with myself at the same time. I think that he should be fired, and I think that he won't be. I feel like he should be, but I think that he won't be. I think they'll stick it out, and then they fire him mid-season next year and just have another lost season.
Yeah, I think I think he's one that stays on. He's the one that gets talked about early season where if they get off to a slow start, obviously we don't know what the 2020 schedule is like because we're not there yet.
Right.
I think if he gets off to a slow start, yes, he'll be one of the first ones fired. It also wouldn't shock me if he bounces back. A lot of you see this throughout head coaches too, where just everything nothing goes your way. And I'm not trying to defend Anthony Lynn. I think, especially if they find a way to retain Rivers, I think they'll, if they want to, I guess, and if he wants to, I think Lane is 70% safe in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you're probably right. I just don't know if that's the right decision.
I don't know if it's the right call either.
Because again, you can say injury and stadium and blah, 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 and I'm sure all that contributes, but when an entire team, like I said earlier, when an entire team underproduces,
That's fair.
All right, let's go ahead and hit a I guess you got a beer now. I still expect a Folgers review, though.
I'll do both.
Okay.
Beer review.
All right, you want to go ahead and start with your beer and your Folgers, and then I'll come in with the Bones Coffee Co. review.
Yes. So I will say this, that drinking beer after drinking coffee, especially a beer that's not supposed to take over a palate, affects how the beer drinks slightly. I don't get much cinnamon on this one. I get a lot of mango. Very, very, very juicy forward. It's a hazy supposed to be. I do remember the first time I had this though, just a few days ago. And it was far more balanced with juiciness, and the cinnamon really, really complemented and the juicy IPA. And it wasn't where the cinnamon showed up on the back end, which is what you expect it to be. It really lingered throughout the actual drink and the aftertaste, which is what you really want. I think they did a very good job in blending and finding a way to let both focal points stand out. Not more so what I'm drinking it now. I don't know if I'm sure the coffee is counteracting it a little bit. I don't get much of the cinnamon now. As for the coffee itself, though, Folgers, like I said, Bud Light of coffee, it's basic as all hell. I always throw sugar in it because I need that extra boost as a late night. But it's coffee. This coffee's a little thin. There's not a whole lot of backbone to it. You obviously get the dark coffee taste. I don't know if I put enough coffee in it. I could have probably put in a little bit more.
Well, it's a medium roast, though, so you kind of expect that.
Yeah, you expect it to be. The sugar really stands out and gives me the jolt, and it's probably the reason why I was like, fuck it, we're going to go for a beer, even though I can't really appreciate the beer in its full effect after drinking coffee.
Yeah. All right, so I had Bones Coffee Company's French Toast, and quite honestly, this is the opposite of what you just described. It's very full, very, very kind of complex palate. On the tip of your tongue, you do get some of that like dark roastiness that you normally, for lack of a better term, I'm not a coffee connoisseur, but some of that roastiness on the tip of your tongue. And then as it rolls through, you do pick up some of the maple. I got for a little bit, almost a little bit of a banana hint, which I think might have been more of like trying to bring out the cinnamon / egg that you get. Or it could have been because it was stored next to Bananas Foster. But either way, slight banana flavor. The cinnamon definitely shows up, but more of a kind of like almost a dry, like baking spice type of palate, like you'd get on a bourbon or something of that nature is what it reminds me of. So, a little bit of a dryness there at the back end. But, overall, as long as you keep in mind that when you get a flavored coffee like this, that it's supposed to accent the coffee, not completely overwhelm it or taste like you're drinking French toast, you're going to be pleasantly satisfied with this one. I think it does have a real complex flavor with a nice backbone. I think the maple gives it kind of a natural, almost sweetness to where you don't really need to add sugar or cream or anything to this one. And it's definitely got a pick-me-up to it, too.
So, A, that sounds amazing. B, we have some pseudo, I won't call it breaking news, but very interesting news that just dropped here about 5 minutes ago.
Okay, what do you got?
Marshawn Lynch is meeting with the Seahawks today to see and discuss a possible return, a possible reunion with the team, with Chris Carson likely done for the year. I think they gave him 3 to 4 weeks.
Is he even going to be playoff eligible if they sign him?
I have no clue. But from the sounds of it, so they're going to be working out. It sounds like CJ Anderson, because CJ Process is also out. You have a banged up Penny banged up Penny. What's that?
Isn't Penny hurt too?
Yeah. So you have just Travis Homer. You see, we saw how bad Seattle's offense looked against a very beatable Cardinals defense. That whole game was weird. It's just weird to see Lynch back in the news. I don't know if it'll happen. I don't think it will. I don't know how game shape he is and how much you can trust him to, to full workload, but it's fun news. I actually hope he signs with them, because it'd be hilarious to see him come back. But yeah, some pseudo breaking news, I
I'm
guess.
reading up on this right now. I'll just read out loud so it's not dead air. A player. Let's see. I'm trying to read through this. Hold on.
That's fine.
Clubs participating in the playoffs are permitted to sign free agents throughout the postseason, but are limited to a total of 4 free agent signings, including players on other clubs' practice squads during that period that begins at 4 p.m. New York time on the Wednesday after the final regular season weekend. So you may sign a player during the NFL playoffs. So it sounds like he could be signed and eligible.
I would assume so if this is news. I
So-
can't imagine that this would be news if it
wasn't.
like if it was breaking some sort of rule.
Man, yeah, I don't know. I mean, unless you're playing playoff fantasy, I don't know how much you care about that, and who knows what type of shape he's in. I think that CJ
for sure.
Anderson is probably going to be your better bet. I mean, he can work out Lynch and everything, sure, but again, who knows what type of shape he's going to be in? He's a year plus removed from playing in the NFL. Period.
He might be
So,
someone if they sign in that he literally has just a very, very limited role.
yeah.
Maybe, I mean, you sign him, he gets some short yardage work, maybe gets some of the red zone work, and
I don't think they will.
yeah, I think
I think
I gotta imagine CJ Anderson's in more game shape than
I think
than
you got to
Marshawn
sign
Lynch,
somebody
but
that's in
same
game
time,
shape.
We saw CJ Anderson come in last year looking like fucking, the second coming of
Bowling
Evan Lacy,
ball.
so, motherfucker, bigger than Maurice Jones-Drew.
Yep. All right, on to the NFC. Going to start with a guy that I'm sure is getting fired, Jason Garrett, out in Dallas. 7-8.
Better. I will fucking riot if he doesn't get fired. I hate Dallas.
Yeah, they have talk about a team that's underperformed. I mean, look, they're a perfect representation of their coach. They lose anything against anybody that's remotely good and win the games that they should. And that's not good enough to be a playoff team. You've got to beat good teams, which is something Dallas has not been able to do. Dak, and this was my fear going into week 16, Dak didn't perform. And I warned people against this. Dak did not perform. I don't know if it was the AC joint or what, but he didn't perform.
I'm told that, from what I've read from the people that watched the game, that this didn't even fall on Dak. Dak went above and beyond what you expect a guy dealing with a shoulder injury on his throwing arm. He would above and beyond, throwing himself. Bleeding was his shoulder when he was diving for extra yards. It sounds like the offense. Sounds like Cooper
44 times, 265 yards. Cooper's kind of disappeared.
It sounds like it won't fall on Dak. And maybe I'm sure.
I don't think it should fall on Dak. I'm not saying it should. I'm just saying
no, of course not.
Saying that his performance kind of, and really we've seen weeks where he disappears, and we've seen weeks where Cooper disappears, and Michael Gallup has been at least somewhat consistent, but Zeke has not been necessarily great, and the defense is really, since losing Van Der Esch, and then you injure Sean Lee, kind of falling apart a little bit. So everything about this team is just average, and I think it should be above average, and that average just screams Jason Garrett.
Yeah, well, this is one of the best rosters in football. I mean, from up and down, the defense was supposed to be one of the top notch. And you see how good the defense can be when they're healthy. Granted, everyone loses players throughout the season, but again, if you're talking about a head coach wasted, like he above Freddie Kitchens, and in terms of should have been fired, and even underperformed where like Anthony Lynn did with the Chargers with how he handled his roster. Garrett should be the first coach fired. Him and Kitchens 1 and 2, same day, same time, right after the game. Give him a fucking Uber, call him an Uber and tell him to find his way home.
So far, of the guys we said fired for, if I'm ranking them with most of the NFC still to go, it's Garrett, Kitchens, 1A, 1B, and Marone, and then Lynn, in order of that I think they deserve to be fired.
I mean, for someone who loves fantasy, I would love to see Gase get knocked out of the
Gase
Jets,
isn't going anywhere.
He's not getting fired. He's not getting fired.
No, they said earlier in the year they weren't firing him. Pat Shurmur, Giants, 4-11. This is another one. Yes, I don't know. This is another one that kind of falls under the realm of he always had multiple years, but first year at this quarterback, they dealt with a ton of injuries. I think Gettleman's the one that gets fired in New York. I don't think it's
God.
Shermer.
Let's hope though. Like Shermer is the first head coach to start his head coaching career losing back-to-back 11 season games. If there's anyone like, it's got to be Gettleman, but fuck, he should have been fired forever ago.
Unless
And he
they make
still
Shermer the
hasn't.
fall guy, but I mean, the problems with this team are obvious, and I don't think it's anything to do with Shermer. You got a rookie quarterback who at times has been good and at times has struggled. The way the wide receiver core was built made 0 sense and still makes 0 sense. With Shepard and Tate both being there, you lack a true number one guy. You've got 2 number 2s and Darius Slayton, who, at times is great. You had the injury to Saquon Barkley, which I think up until recently affected him because, I mean, look, it was high ankle sprain. He came back fast, but we've seen that just zap any elusiveness or agility out of running backs. We've seen it with Fournette in the past too, and I think it did that to Saquon Barkley. And the defense is just there's nothing there. And it's not like they haven't been well positioned in drafts either. It's just that Gettleman is kind of terrible. So somebody's going to be the fall guy here. It should be Gettleman to me, not Shermer, but I wouldn't be surprised if, Gettleman gets rid of Shermer before he gets the chance to be canned.
I think with the positiveness from the offense, with the overwhelmingly positive look of Daniel Jones, even though he hasn't been great, he's been far better than what people expected. Like I think Shermer gets the pass because of that. I think they'll let Gettleman go. Shermer again will be one of those guys like Lynn, like maybe even Zach Taylor, and then if Doug Marrone survives, will be one of the main head coaches that'll be looked at throughout the early season next year as on that hot seat if they get off to a slow start again. He'll be likely be canned from that point. I think Shermer survives. I think it's more like a 55-45 or 60-40. It's just this one I'm going to be watching because I don't think it's really his, like, it falls on him because he's a head coach, but
it falls on the GM in this case.
Yeah, I think it falls more so on the GM. The head coach is like middle management. You
can only do what you can do with it. It is like middle management because the GM let's take retail for example. The GM is bringing in the team, and the manager is still in your middle management. The head coach in this case is told to make it work, and that's the problem when you get a coach and a GM that potentially aren't on the same page. That you're getting a bunch of personnel that may not be a scheme fit or may not be that traditional fit, and you got to try to make do with what you got.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Bill Callahan in Washington is interim, so not going to talk about him. Interim head coaches are almost never retained. They may be interviewed, but
unless you're Jason Garrett.
Right. They may be interviewed, but I think Callahan is, at least for intents and purposes right now, gone. I mean, the team has performed better under him, but that's an off-season discussion. It's not going to be a Black Monday announcement that he will or won't be retained.
No, I'm sure he'll be, he'll
interview.
He'll interview for the job. The offense that you just mentioned has looked better, but I think they're putting all their young pieces out there and letting them develop. You've seen Haskins, again, it's gotten better in every single
He has, and from a fantasy perspective, he's not been fantastic, but given what's around him and from a rookie perspective, he's come along just fine. So
yeah.
All right, Matt Nagy. We're moving on to the NFC North. Matt Nagy, Chicago is 7-8. A year after making the playoffs at 12-4. The defense has not been as lights out, but they've still been good. The offense has been atrocious, which is what Nagy is responsible for. I'll let you lead off. I'm the Bears fan, so I'll let you lead off, and then I'll give my homer take.
That's fine. I'm not shocked as much by this. They had I think a top 3 strength of schedule coming into this year. You're playing a first place schedule is not supposed to be easy, and I think the defense is lacking because the offense can't sustain enough drives consistently. You can blame that on the offense, on the head coach, blame it on everything. it all works in the same. They have injuries to key defensive players like Akeem Hicks that changes things. Like you can't expect you can't expect Mac to completely dominate every single game. That's not feasible, especially over multiple seasons. The offense itself is like very suspect that you just mentioned. Trubisky really hasn't grown. Now, who knows what the future of that looks like? If Trubisky is not the answer, then I don't think Nagy retains his job. I think he does, and I think they're going to keep writing Trubisky on his rookie deal, and in hopes that things get better. The offense had looked good at times. I don't think it's the worst thing in the whole fucking world, but it's definitely a disappointing season. But I think Matt Nagy retains his job. I don't think he's gone.
Yeah, I think he gets one more crack at it. I think it's another one of those, start slow and see. Trubisky has regressed in pretty much every major category as the offense has regressed. And as you watch the Bears games, with the exception of the Kansas City game, because I didn't watch that one.
I heard it was bad.
It probably was. I don't know. I went to bed early. But they've been dinking and dunking and doing this conservative shit behind the line that hasn't worked out. And then over the 3-game winning streak, they started to push the ball downfield. They should have won last week in Green Bay, too. But there was that blown call. But they were pushing the ball downfield and not so much playing scared, getting Trubisky on the run. And, it had been better over that 3-week stretch. He had 7 touchdowns to just 4 picks, and it had been generally good. And I think that they've shown those flashes, but I think that the interior offensive line, while Whitehair and Daniels are supposed to be good, and Kyle Long's got hurt again, but they haven't really been able to run the football effectively. And I don't know that with some of that dink and dunk play calling that Nagy should continue to be the play caller. Honestly, you might see a coordinator change here. I don't think you see a head coach change, but I don't know that Nagy should. I think he should have a hand in the offense, but I don't know that he should be the one calling plays given what we saw. There's got to be some form of change. And so you can't say, oh, they didn't play well, do nothing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because you can't look at the defense and see a major hole. You can't really look at the offense and see a major hole. You can say they didn't run the football, but they should have the pieces to be able to do that. So you got to look at play calling, and you got to look at the offensive coordinator specifically. And look, the offensive coordinator isn't calling plays. So I think that's what has to change. Is somebody's got to tell Nagy, hey, you're not calling plays, or he's got to commit to not calling plays scared like he did most of the season and live or die by his quarterback. So, that's my take on it. I don't think he's fired. I do think that there could be a coordinator change, though, and I think there could be a philosophy change in who's calling plays here this offseason.
Okay.
So, because you got to do something. You can't do nothing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can't. Yeah. With how bad this offense looked as a whole for the whole season, yeah, you have to change something.
Yep. All right, Matt Patricia out in Detroit, 3-11-1. Another terrible season.
I want him to go. I want Matthew Stafford with an offensive-minded head coach. That's not fucking stupid. I want to see Vikings fan, NFC North. I get it. I want to see Matthew Stafford unleashed. He's got good weapons. He should have a good offense, or he should have a good running game if Kerryon can stay healthy. Good up-and-coming tight end in T.J. Hawkinson. Patricia's has woefully underperformed.
Yeah,
he's supposed to be this, defensive genius. The defense has looked terrible.
All right.
They can show up at times, but throughout the majority of the season and throughout the actual outlook of the entire season, they've been bad. And I think, for some reason, he'll get a pass. I think they'll find a way, dependent on Stafford's injury, the running back injuries.
Driscoll's injury. I mean, they're playing with a third-string quarterback since Thanksgiving. So
yeah, exactly. And they'll find a way. And I know, just seeing through Twitter, because we know a lot of Detroit fans in the fantasy community. They all want him gone. Mm-hmm. But I think for some reason, I think he'll stay.
All right. So you made the Stafford point, and I would just like to point out He played 8 games this year. He was on pace, 64.3% completion percentage, on pace for about 5,000 yards, 38 touchdowns. There we go. I can't math. 38 touchdowns, 10 picks, 6.5% touchdown rate, 1.7% interception rate. He was returning to form before he got hurt.
True.
And he was on pace for a monster season with those numbers. I mean, those numbers are MVP level. So I do think that, look, Patricia's calling card is supposed to be defense, and that's where they need to get better. Stafford not being healthy, you can write that off. And then Driscoll not being healthy, okay, he ended up at David Blau. That's losing 2 quarterbacks is shit luck.
Yep.
When you end up on your third stringer. I thought Stafford was performing really well, though, before, and I think the offense had found a niche before the injury happened. So I'm just saying that the defense needs to get better. And
it does.
However you do that, fine. I think Patricia gets one more year. I think he gets one more year. All right. You ready for the NFC South?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, Bruce Arians in Tampa Bay. They're 7-8. I think he's a 1-year head coach. The offense was good. It was Jameis' first year in it, so there's some questionable decision making and some turnovers and things that happen. They started off the season bad. They rebounded. They got the potential to finish at 500. They're 7-8 team right now. They have the potential to rebound and finish 500. I think that they bring back Jameis. I think Arians gets another year. I think that they've got to improve the defense and help the offensive line here, but I don't think that Arians is going anywhere.
I think the only way that Arians is not there is if he retires. Like there's like he again, just like Frank Wright is completely safe.
Yep. All right, Dan Quinn in Atlanta, 6-9.
Oof.
Another tough one.
I gotta look at his tenure while he's been there. I think that plays in it.
Up and down and all right. The problem here is that he had an offense that underperformed to start the season and then came along slowly and has been performing really well as of late. You got a defense that started out well and then completely regressed. And I don't know. This team should be a playoff team, honestly, especially if you put the right pieces on defense. This team should be a playoff team. So I maybe a D coordinator change. I don't know if Dan Quinn's gone, but I could also see him being gone. He sits somewhere behind Anthony Lynn and Doug Marrone on the deserves to be fired list for me, because I think that you could absolutely make a case for that. But I don't think you can make a massively strong one for letting Dan Quinn go yet.
Yeah, I mean, his side of the ball is defense. That's supposed to be his forte. And again, plethora of injuries in back-to-back years.
That's true.
Has not helped it at all. And again, some coaches get a pass, some coaches don't. Maybe that's not fair. Maybe it's not. But in this case, the team massively underperformed. You can blame it on injuries again, just like we did with with the Chargers. But it seemed like there were games that they should have won, or were in chance of winning that never did. Where they just got blown out completely, and the team never felt like they were in it. I think they started out 1-7, 1-6, and they've been better since. They're going to finish 7-9 or 6-10, and they made the change from Lovie Smith, right? They fired the D coordinator, and then the defense got remarkably better, and you got to see them actually put together complete games. Not having a real true running game with Devonta Freeman banged up for most of the year hadn't helped. But but still, you have Matt Ryan healthy. You have a very strong receiving core in Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley, and the emergent Austin Hooper, and you still couldn't, put more together wins early on in the season to make it competitive. I wouldn't be surprised if Quinn gets canned, and I wouldn't be surprised if he stays. For me, just like just like it is with Lynn, for me, I think it's a 50-50 toss.
Yeah, they're pretty close as far as I'm concerned. I think that you can probably make a bigger case for Quinn almost than Lynn, just because there's injuries to defense. Okay, but your defense was not great anyway. So yeah. Note on Carolina, by the way, they did already fire Ron Rivera. Parrish Jewell was the interim head coach, and he will not be the head coach there next year. It'll be somebody else.
No.
So
this team will be in complete full rebuild.
Yep. All right, the NFC West, just wanted to touch on it just in sticking with it. Sean McVay with the Rams, 8-7, disappointing season, but we know he's not going anywhere. And same thing in Cliff Kingsbury in Arizona with the roster he had going 5-9-1, a first-year quarterback that's trying to develop. You had the late emergence of Kenyon Drake. Kingsbury's not going anywhere either. So
no,
I just wanted to throw them on there in keeping with the course of, is there any discussion? And I don't think there's any discussion on either of those guys. They'll be there.
No, they're both very, very much safe.
Yep. So looking at this list, just to put a bow on things, that completes our Black Monday predictions. So just running through it, and correct me if I'm wrong on any of these. Gase and Flores, we both think are safe.
Yep.
Kitchens is gone.
Yep.
Taylor's safe.
Yep.
Reich is safe.
Yep.
Marone, you were 50-50 on. I'm hoping he's gone.
Yep.
Fangio's safe.
Yep.
Lynn, we were 50-50 on. I hope he's gone, but he could stay.
Yep.
Garrett gone. Shermer.
Yep.
Hopefully it's Gettleman that's gone instead.
Yeah.
So
hopefully.
Callahan was interim. Nagy safe. Patricia safe. Arian safe. Quinn 50-50 probably gone. Ewell interim. McVay and Kingsbury safe.
Yeah, and we threw out
Bill O'Brien, who could be a surprise firing.
Gone. We've seen coaches get fired after postseason.
Yep. I think
Marvin Lewis.
Yep, I think Bill O'Brien could be gone too. I think the ones that we're most looking forward to would be Freddie Kitchens and Jason Garrett.
That's the top of the list.
Yeah.
Because from a fantasy standpoint, it'd be amazing to unlock. Hopefully,
Dallas.
we see more of it. We see a little bit more. Kellen Moore actually, have more control of the offense throughout the actual games.
Yep. All right, that's all we got for you on this Monday morning. Again, no Wednesday episode. Sorry, got a little choked up there. No Wednesday episode this week or really until next September at minimum. Maybe never. I don't know.
We'll see.
Right now, just be Monday episodes. Next Monday, we'll come back in with, we'll see how right and wrong you were. We'll give all the Black Monday analysis after firings and everything next Monday. So be sure to tune in for that. May try to round up a guest. We'll see. But yeah, we will drop an episode on Monday. If we do round up a guest, that'll depend on when we record it with holidays and everything. We'll talk about that off air rather than throwing you guys into another on-air production meeting. Sure. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you those of us that have stuck with us the rest of the season. In 2 weeks, we'll have the Fuelies episode. I don't want to push Black Monday off a week to do that. So we'll have Black Monday next week. We'll do the Fuelies the following week, hoping to get Nick Sparts back on for that episode to dish out some awards. So and have the three of us back together for that one. So we'll see how that plays. But yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in. Reminder, you can follow the show, Beerfield Fantasy Football, on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, because if you want to show up, interact with us, ask questions, or just hang out, we love the interaction. But that's how you're going to know when we're recording, because even though we're dropping episodes on Monday, won't always be recording them on Monday. If you prefer to listen to audio, you've got iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play. Pretty much anywhere podcasts are, we are there. So Beerfield Fantasy Football to get that. Follow the show on Twitter at BeerfieldFF. Same for Instagram and Untapped. You can follow me at HopBFF with 2 Ps. Dan, I'll let you give your Twitter and anything else you want to say to officially put a bow on the 2019 fantasy football season for us.
At 30BFF on Twitter. Again, thank you to those that stuck with us through this year. Again, we apologized. We knew this was not going to be our best season. We knew that this was going to be a restructure for us running our own feet. We are very, very much excited for next season. Expect a little bit more of Nick onto this show for those of you that, would love to see us go back to 3 people again. Expect more guests on, expect more fun content, expect an overall change in tone. We will still bring you all the rookie content you want to know. We're, to the best of our ability. We'll still bring you a bunch of fantasy takes. We'll bring you even more beer takes. I know there's listeners out there that want a good, mixture of both. Again, thank you, and we will see you next week for Black Monday review.
Yep. So, and happy holidays to everybody.
And happy holidays, happy New Year.
And happy fantasy championships if you got some. So hopefully we help some of you along to that. But yep, happy holidays. We'll be here before the new year, so we'll wish you a happy new year next week. But yeah, hope you enjoy some time with friends and family and get to relax a little bit. I know that's what I'm doing, and unfortunately, Dan doesn't sound like he's gonna have much of an opportunity to.
That's not until after New Year's. That's
Yep.
when everything
Everything calms
fucking
down.
goes. Yeah. Everyone's on the health kick for 3 weeks, and then it's back to normal.
All right. See you guys.
See ya.